Hello, I think we're live again. All right then, so today's video, I want to talk about how you make food work for you. So one of the things that I've said on the intro for this, on the written intro, is that if you want to make long-term changes, you've really got to find food that works for you and that fits in with your lifestyle. So, for example, it's very common to go on a diet or try a new diet plan and end up abandoning it because you don't enjoy the food. A classic one is salads. Quite a lot of people tend to go on a diet, eat loads of salad. The weather changes or it's cold like it is now, and you really start to get fed up and bored of that. You don't know what else to do, and then you end up, giving up on the diet. So, and this is a very personal approach, and this is why I don't really feel like that there's a one size fits all with a diet. There's general principles and guidelines that you can follow, but it's really important that you find food that works for you. I'm going to tell you the areas that you need to focus on. Now, I've put some recipes on the program. You can use your own recipes. You can use things like Joe Wicks, and there's loads of books from different places that you can use to get ideas and inspiration. The internet's full of ideas for food, and you need to sort of be prepared to have a little bit of a play around and find what works for you. And the things that you want to pay attention to are the meals that you actually really enjoy the taste of and that you feel you want to eat. You want to eat on a regular basis. Okay. Omelette for me is something that now and again I'll enjoy. But if I kept having it all the time, in fact, I can probably have 2 or 3 within a short space of time, and I probably wouldn't bother having it for months. So I never try and put a program together for myself that relies on having an omelette for lunch every day, for example, because I know that's not something that I'm going to eat on a regular basis. So there's no point suggesting it. And so you've got to enjoy the food, and you'll all, I'm sure you can think of now something that you always enjoy. For me, I'll always enjoy pancakes for breakfast. I'll always enjoy eggs on toast for breakfast. And I always have a few like staples that I'll go back to that are just easy pleasers because you just enjoy them. And this is really important to think about it from your whole, the way you approach your food from a food planning point of view. You don't need to, we're not Gordon Ramsay, we're not Jamie Olivers. We just need to, we want to get food on the table for ourselves and our families without it being a massive rigmarole and having to, be really creative and keep things interesting all the time. That's not real life. Yes, there's space for doing that now and again, but really you want to be trying to find a sort of relatively small bank of meals that you enjoy, your family will enjoy with you as well. And that is going to probably be, you can think about that 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, you want to be going for those easy pleasers that you just know everyone's going to like, you're going to like, job done. And the reason why we're doing that is because it's really taxing on your brain to have to keep thinking of something new and looking for ideas. And this is a very common thing from a menopausal point of view, where you really don't have, or anyone who's under a lot of stress, or stress and menopause together, just double whammy, amplifies everything. When you're having to try and constantly look for ideas and inspiration all the time, and going over and over again all the time, looking for something new, looking for something different that you've not had before, it's very taxing on the brain. It's much easier to try and build up a relatively, a smallish repertoire of meals that you can go to all of the time. Okay, that's how I do it. So when I do my food planning, there'll always be a chili in there somewhere, or a bolognese, or shepherd's pie, things that I know everyone likes, and that I can, I'll take the pasta off because I prefer to eat more meat and less carbs and have salad with it, or have small pasta. But the people who want loads of pasta can just pile it on, in the family. So we all eat easily, we're all happy, and all of our needs are catered for. That's what you're going for. Now, we talked about taste, okay? So actually having something that's tasty and that you can enjoy eating is absolutely key. Now, but there's lots of things we all find tasty and enjoy that definitely aren't going to be on your long-term plan as part of your 80% rule. One of the things that you need to then start to focus on is the foods that fill you up. Not only fill you, so there's 2 things to think about with filling up. I could eat, let's say, a bag of spinach and I would be full, technically, because it's a lot of volume in my stomach, or I could have a massive drink of water and I would be full. Would I be satisfied? No. Because one, that would digest very quickly and I'd be left feeling hungry because there's no calories. But also the omelette example that I used before is a good example. Technically, I wouldn't be satisfied if I ate an omelette, and that would lead to me craving more food because it's not something that I enjoy enough. So you can either not feel satisfied after a meal because it's not, you've not enjoyed it enough, and therefore you're still craving some enjoyment from your food, or you can not feel satisfied after a meal because it's not filling enough, so you've not eaten enough food. You can also not feel satisfied after a meal because it's not got the right balance of protein and carbohydrate. Okay, so for example, jam on toast for breakfast. Dead easy, ticks a box if you'd enjoy it. It's a no-brainer. If you actually added the calories up from jam on toast, there wouldn't actually be that much in it if you had 2 pieces of toast and jam for your breakfast. It's not going to be a very calorific breakfast. You enjoy it? Are you starving at 10:30 or 11 o'clock? Yes. So that's an example of something that's not going to be satisfying enough. Not just the mental satisfaction of eating it, but it's not going to leave you feeling full and satisfying your hunger for long enough to get you through to your lunch. And one of the reasons that that happens is because just the way your body metabolizes food. If you took the jam off and put a couple of eggs on that toast, you're talking about a whole different story, because when you have a little bit more protein with your meals, that has a much more satisfying effect on it. Now, if you're vegetarian, a little bit trickier. If you're vegan, a little bit more tricky. You need to be thinking of foods with lots of pulses, beans, chickpeas, tofu, if you like it. Obviously, eggs and cheese if you're vegetarian. But they're things of protein. If you're not vegetarian, any meat, any dairy, any fish. And having some of those with your meals is going to help you feel full until your next meal. And that's key. Okay, that's what we're trying to do here. So I'll give you a good example. One of the things that I put a lot of my clients on straight off is Greek yogurt, full fat, with nuts and fruit. And again, when you add the calorie, I think there's a recipe for that on the diet plan that I gave you, or the food plan that I gave you. That is a really satisfying meal. You've got a lot of protein in Greek yogurt. So the Greek yogurt with 10% protein in it is really important. And you've also got quite a lot of fat, relatively speaking. And that combination of protein and fat is very, very satisfying. The yogurt's creamier, it's tastier, it takes your body long to digest it, and you can find that that type of food can help you get to lunchtime, or a lot closer to lunchtime, so that you've maybe only got an hour where you probably want to eat, but it's going to eliminate the need for you to snack mid-morning. And the net effect of that is going to be that you'll eat less calories. So this is think about the food that does that for you, because we're not the same. We're not all the same. I gave an example of omelets. You may love omelets. You may be able to eat them for your breakfast and lunch and just have them on repeat all the time. You may really not enjoy yogurt, so that wouldn't work. But there'll be foods that really hit the spot for you, and foods that don't. You want to spend time finding the ones that do. So that's how you make your meals work for you, so you can create a way of eating that is sustainable in the long term. I'm looking down because I've got my notes. I've always got notes. The next one is actually having something that fits in with your lifestyle. I can't stress that enough. We're all just so busy. We've got so much to do. If you need to spend a lot of time making complicated things or with lots of ingredients, and you don't have the time or inclination to spend in the kitchen, it's not going to work. Okay. If you've got to cater for the needs of your family, you're going to have to find a middle ground of food that you can all eat together, and that's going to work for you. And maybe that you have to compromise. If you have to compromise, they have to compromise too. Especially if you're the cook and you're the shopper and you're the meal planner. I really encourage you to stand your ground and try and find something that everyone will eat. Now, there's some family-friendly recipes in that meal plan, because this is something that I've had to do. I've got children, I've got stepchildren. Stepchildren is a little bit harder than your own kids, because you can just tell your own kids what to do and you don't really care. When it's someone else's children, there's a whole different psychology attached to keeping them happy. And I didn't find the things that we all liked overnight. There was a few times when I've made dinners and kids have burst into tears when I've put the food in front of them, or when they've tasted it, and that's just been the last thing you want as a mum or a stepmom. But we persevered and we found food that we all like. And I mentioned the fact things like pasta, things like bolognese, things like chili, you can make vegan versions of those. I tend to not have the rice or not as much rice and more of a salad or vegetable with those types of dishes, but everyone else is happy. So it's a really easy way to adapt things. So because again, all this is going to take a little bit of work to figure it out. And I really can't give you a precise set of meals to work towards, because we're all different in terms of what we like, as I've explained. So you're going to have to spend a little bit of time. But I think once you realise that you can do this and you can refine things and pay attention to what you're having, you start looking out for it, and then the penny drops, if you like, and you're off, and then you're trying to work out what's this meal plan, this way of eating that's going to work for you all. So fitting in with your lifestyle, the amount of time you've got, of course, the budget you've got, how much, what your family needs, that's something as well that you're going to have to spend a little bit of time paying attention to and figuring out. Just becoming aware of it is enough to begin with. It'll start to fall into place. You'll start to notice the things that work and building your routine up around those. The next thing I want to talk about in terms of food is cravings. And people very often say, I crave sweet things, and there can be multiple causes of cravings. Now, firstly, I want you to think about it, that a craving could be nothing more complex than just a bad food habit that you've created. So I very easily get into a routine of having my dinner and then having a little bit of a dessert after it. And I might have yogurt with nuts, a bit of dark chocolate in there, a bit of fruit. And I just, I won't lie, I love it and I really enjoy that. I'm not hungry. I just create a little bit of a habit. And when I think, you can think about giving up things that you love, that you really enjoy, like, chocolate after your meal or a biscuit with your tea or whatever it would be, and worry that you wouldn't be able to do that. But when you start to think, it's just a habit, it's not actually anything, I don't really need it, there's not an addiction there that I have to break a habit. And your cravings could just be habits that you've created. And all you have to do, and that becomes really helpful and really empowering if you think, it's just a habit. It's not anything more than a habit. I've just did this once, I enjoyed it, so I did it again, and before I knew it, it just became a routine. As human beings, we like to create and build little habits. And could be what you've done with, you're just craving things, or you crave things because of the routine of having them. And you might find if you cut them out or let them go, or find some way to distract yourself. I talked about the cleaning your teeth. So if I have my dinner, go upstairs, clean my teeth, take myself away from the kitchen, then I don't even think about having the fruit, the yogurt, the chocolate, whatever it would be, because that moment's gone. There wasn't a true addiction or a true craving there. I just created that little routine. I break that routine, then I don't need that food anymore. And it can be that simple. Well, the reasons that you can have cravings are because you're hungry. You can try and be, when you're starting a new food plan, you can cut things out sometimes. So it might be that you take your pasta out with your bolognese, for example, and you're hungry after because you've not had enough. I take the pasta out, but put extra meat on. So, and extra salad, and I have oil on that salad. So I'm replacing the calories with healthier things. If you're cutting things out, you could be leaving yourselves too short of calories, and therefore you're too hungry. So your craving could actually be true hunger. So just check that and pay attention to that. Then you've got the cravings that I think we all really think about and really mean when we talk about cravings. And that's when we're eating food because we're anxious, we're bored, we're fed up, we're lonely. Sometimes we know we're doing it. Sometimes we don't know we're doing it. In lockdown, while I couldn't work, while I couldn't train because when the gyms were closed, like everyone, I'd just be suddenly find myself in front of the fridge or in the cupboards, and I'd be thinking, what can I have? And I'm looking for something and get a bit of cheese out or cracker out the cupboard or a handful of nuts, whatever it was. And when I thought about it, I thought, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I didn't even notice how I got there sometimes. But I realised there was a pattern. So when I was having to do something difficult at work, or that gave me something, so maybe it could be doing your accounts or something like that, or doing all your receipts that you hate, and it's a really boring job, and you start to feel a bit anxious and stressed and worried about it because you're so far behind, owning up here. Or there could be something to do with technology that I found difficult, and I had to really apply myself. I was standing up and going to eat something because the food was a distraction. And I didn't actually realise that until I sat back and thought about it. And, you know, sometimes you know very clearly what's the problem. You're bored, you're anxious, you're lonely, you're upset. You need to think about, you need to sort of spend a little bit of time just digging into your cravings. What's the pattern? How do you, what makes you crave? What's the trigger? How do you feel when you have those cravings? And you can actually do this a little bit like, almost like a mindfulness exercise. You know, where do you feel them? Do you feel tight in your throat? Do you feel itchy? Sometimes I sort of have like a feeling of an itching or a crawling sensation. And you can just get curious about what's actually going on with yourself, with you, when you're in that craving situation. And sometimes that can actually distract you from the act of eating. You start to take back a little bit of control. And if you start to just simply observe how you feel, observe what's going on for you, observe how you're feeling in your mind, and you can either just maybe do a little bit of journaling or just sit with it and pay attention to it, or you can start to try and do some different things other than just turn to food. So quite often, if you've got an emotion coming up, we try to push it down with the food. That's what's actually happening in most cases. You don't like the feeling of all those emotions like sadness or loneliness. So you're trying to distract yourself from it and push it down with, you know, with the eating. And we all know and recognise, any of us who do that, and I'm one of them, recognise that's just not a healthy pattern. It doesn't make you happy. It doesn't change how you feel. It doesn't change the loneliness or the anxiety or the sadness. They're all still there at the end of it. But now you've got a bit of guilt on the top of that because you're annoyed with yourself for just eating what you've eaten, knowing that, you know, you've quite often you eat it, you barely even register, you don't even enjoy what you have. You just shove it in your mouth because you feel like, and you still feel the same, and you can't even remember eating what you food because you've not savoured it. So I'm talking too much. So that's it, you know, to start to deal with and manage cravings, you have to spend a little bit of time becoming aware of it and what your triggers are, what the patterns are for you, and what you're dealing with. And sometimes, you know, you can just sit with your feelings for a bit. You can think about how you're feeling. You can acknowledge that it's okay to feel how you feel. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to tell yourself you shouldn't feel a particular way. We all feel all of those, you know, emotions some of the time. That's just very normal, and it's okay. It's okay to feel like that. Sometimes that can be enough. Other times you might still feel the need to eat. What you can do then is you can see if you have enough self-control to say, okay, well, I'm not going to eat a bar of chocolate. I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to find a nice hand cream, and I'm just going to file my nails, just tidy them up a bit, and just put some nice cream on myself and do something nice on myself. And expand your repertoire of things to do that make you feel better and distract you if you need to be distracted, but things that are healthy, as in healthy behaviours. Sometimes you might think, right, well, I really do want to have that bar of chocolate and or a biscuit or whatever it is. And that can be okay as well. The only caveat I would say is when you find yourself in that situation where you've thought, right, I'm feeling really fed up and lonely. You know, I've got this horrible itching, crawling feeling because of this craving. I understand that I feel like that. I understand that it's okay. And think at the end of that, but I do still want a chocolate bar or a biscuit. Then to that, I would say, okay, go and have it. But you've got to sit there and really pay attention to it. If you're going to indulge in something, don't just shovel it in and inhale it and not notice it. Actually, if you're going to treat yourself, enjoy it. Go and have a cup of tea. Go and sit down in a quiet space. Really enjoy that biscuit, you know, break it up into little pieces and just really notice how it tastes and the textures, and really enjoy having that treat. That's the way to deal with it. As soon as you start inhaling, shoveling it in, reaching for the next one, you've not quite done what you need to do. You need to really slow down and appreciate that food and enjoy it for what it is. Okay, so just a little bit of a recap. This has been a long video because it's quite a big subject. It's all about making food work for you. And that's a little bit of a journey. You have to learn what works for you. You have to try a few things. You want to look for things that you enjoy the taste of, that you enjoy eating, okay? And that you're happy to eat on a regular basis, you know. You also need to look for things that physically fill you up and you feel satisfied. Satisfied means that you've enjoyed it and you feel, you feel like you've had what you need, either from a taste perspective or a volume perspective or a nutritional perspective, and you feel like you don't need to eat anymore, and you know that it's going to last you pretty much until your next meal, that feeling of fullness and not being hungry really. You're going to feel less hungry over time, but you're going to feel that you're good to go. You also want to think about how your foods fit in with your lifestyle, how it works around your family, how it works around your budgets or the time that you've got. And then you want to think about your bad food habits and how you break them. Okay. And then the craving one, firstly, is it hunger? You could be hungry. Is it just a bad habit and therefore something that's relatively easy to break? Or is it something a little bit deeper going on, that's an emotional craving, and you want to really start to recognize and acknowledge those emotions and see if you can break the pattern by doing something else other than eating? Or if you do choose to eat at the end of it, you don't do mindless eating where you're just inhaling and not enjoying. Okay, so that's what we need to do. So let me know what you think about this video. I'm going to put a little post out as well with a shorter resume around that. But I'd love to know what you think about that and how that applies to you, and what 2 things that you could take from this video that you could put into your own life. Okay. All right then. A much longer video than I thought I'd do. If you've got to the end of it and you've persevered, then well done. Thank you very much. And I hope it's worthwhile. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you again tomorrow. Okay.